What is up, fantasy fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, narrator of The Gallant by Janny Wirtz and author of forthcoming fantasy novel Requiem Dreams of the Sleepless. So I recently read a book that I don't know if I would recommend widely, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. And it's not a fantasy novel. It is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. And I want to give a spoiler-free review of this, but also talk about a lot of the emotions it brought about and a lot of the thoughts I had while reading this book, and then go into spoilers. If the mortal sin of the suicide is greed, to hoard stillness and calm for yourself while dispersing your riotous internal pain among all those who survive you, then the mortal sin of the martyr must be pride, the vanity, the hubris to believe not only that your death could mean more than your living, but that your death could mean more than death itself, which, because it is inevitable, means nothing. The book Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. So Kaveh Akbar is a poet. This is his first full-length novel, and we follow the character of Cyrus Shams. He is an Iranian American. He is a writer. He is Muslim, and he is gay, closeted gay, and he is also a recovered addict. And we follow Cyrus as he becomes obsessed with the idea of martyrdom, of self-sacrifice, of not only dying, but dying in a way that means something. Martyrdom, or the idea of martyrdom, is examined in this book, and it's kind of shown to be oxymoronic because death is the one thing that you cannot give meaning. Death is meaningless, or at least that's a certain perspective that is taken at some point in this book, which is later refuted within the same book. But at the onset of the story, you find out that Cyrus's mother was shot down. She was in a flight. The U.S. government shot down her plane, and this is something that haunts Cyrus. He wants his death to mean something, but he is so tired of living. He's not happy. He finds very little joy in his life, and he doesn't want to live anymore, but he doesn't want to die in a way that lacks meaning. He doesn't want to die the way his mother did. Cyrus is not always a likable protagonist. I think he's fascinating to read about. I think he has a very poetic worldview that is at times melodramatic and can kind of make you eye roll like, okay, Cyrus. And there are times where that exact perspective, that exact way that Cyrus views the world had me going, is this going to be like a 3-star read for me? And I'll just say by the end, it was a firm 5 stars for me, but it is something that I know will not be a unanimous 5-star. It's not something that I can hold up to all my subscribers and say, go read Martyr, and you'll love it, but it is something that I think everyone should try. I listened to the audiobook, and I thought it was really well done. I thought Cyrus's voice was very distinct while reading Cyrus's perspective, which is so focused on self-sacrifice, he reminded me a lot of the character in Catcher in the Rye, though more melancholic and less enraged, I would say. More melancholic. He's not very likable, though. He's not a likable protagonist for large swaths of the story. But his talk about how he wants his life to mean something and he wants to die in a way that has purpose reminded me a lot of a book I recently read, and that is Babel by Rebecca Kwong. So in this novel, you follow the character Robin Swift, and there are a lot of instances where he almost jumps to self-sacrifice as his first inclination when faced with adversity. He thinks to self-sacrifice before problem solving, before thinking of another solution that would help his friends. His first thing he thinks to do is, oh, take me instead. And his friends call him out on this, specifically his friend Rami, though I'm going to say spoilers vague, spoiler free for Babel. Rami, amazing fictional character in this book. Absolutely love this character. I made a short talking about Babel. I hope to do a full dedicated review. Spark notes, I love Rami and Robin's relationship in this book, but Rami calls out Robin and says, why are you so obsessed with self-sacrifice? Sacrificing yourself for your friends, becoming a martyr. I mean, it's almost, I don't want to say it's a cliche within our media because it's based on real lived human experiences. And I think, anybody who sacrifices themselves for the people they love should only be lauded. That is such a courageous thing to do. But in our media, it's such a popularized thing to do, to self-sacrifice, to fall on the grenade, to be the one to, sacrifice yourself for others. We grow up in a generation that romanticizes the idea of ending our existence in a way that can be romanticized and respected. And I don't know, when you look at a character like Robin Swift, you can say like, okay, his mental health is not the best. These attempts at martyrdom are not healthy. And then you could say the same thing for Erathon Safalin in Janie Wertz's brilliant Wars of Light and Shadow series. There are times where Erathon's first thought is to self-sacrifice, to fall on that grenade, to sacrifice himself for others. And you also, as you read through the series, you find out that Erathon is not someone who loves himself most days. Most days, I would say Erathon doesn't love himself. He doesn't even like himself. Even though we, the reader, can look at him, look at his empathy and his passion and admire him for that, he's not able to see what we see. Same thing for a character like Kaladin Stormblast from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. You could also make the same statement for Wayne from his Wax and Wayne Mistborn Era 2 quartet. These are characters that, they're badass, they're heroic, we love following them, but they're haunted by so many things, and a lot of them, Kaladin fights the good fight and he doesn't give up, but there's a lot of scenarios that he only, slightly survives, where he very nearly risked it all to save everyone, yes, and it was very noble, but it's if he would have stopped for a second, was there a better solution to this issue than to self-sacrifice? And this, I can bring on the literary examples. Fitz Chivalry Farseer always doing this, very similar to Kaladin, and that he's always finding a way to self-sacrifice. Hellboy from the Hellboy comics, he has so many brushes with death, and it's only because of his near immortality that he continues to live through the series, but he's always in these near death or should be death experiences, should be mortal brushes with death. A lot of it is because he does not view himself as worthy of life. My favorite comic book of all time, Mr. Miracle by Tom King. Scott Free, his first thought is to sacrifice and to be this sacrifice for his people. He does it all the time. He thinks about his family, but he doesn't think about himself. And in the very first issue, you see him attempt to take his own life. All that is to say, I think it's very easy to admire the hell out of these fictional characters that choose to sacrifice everything for those they love. And I'm not saying that those characters are any less noble, but I'm looking at all these characters that are willing to make that sacrifice, and I'm saying most days out of the week, their struggle isn't to sacrifice themselves for others. It's to continue going on. It's to continue living. For Fitz, the choice to sacrifice himself for his family is immediate, but the choice to wake up every day is a hard one. And I would say that that's the same for Cyrus Shams. I'd say that's the same for every single literary character I just brought up. Robin Swift, Erathon Safalin, Kaladin Stormblast. All of these, I had to tie it into some fantasy books and some comics, but all of these fictional characters, making the sacrifice play is not what's difficult. It's finding the will to live every day. And, Martyr is a very different story than all these fantasy books. The idea of dying to save others, this is in, 2020 United States of America. This is modern day, and it's not a big dramatic story. Though there are some twists and turns in here that had me literally going, what the, I was freaking out at some of these instances. But Cyrus, he is not trying to martyr himself in the literal sense that so many of these characters are, but he is trying to find a way to die in a way that matters, in a way that means something. And when he finds this woman who could have been treated for her breast cancer, could have had a chance at the cancer metastasizing, the cancer going into remission, could have had a chance to continue fighting her cancer, she decided to die and to have her death from her breast cancer be a sort of art exhibit, which I know you hear that sounds like a very dramatic book premise, but I'm telling you, it does very much work within this narrative. At least for me, it's not going to work for a lot of people, but you see him go to this woman and try to interview her for his book he's writing on martyrs. He finds something to admire in this woman that he wasn't able to admire in his mother, which is kind of unfair to his mother if you think about it, because all she did was get on a flight, it was just an unfortunate happenstance. But this woman is choosing to die in a way that means something. But at the same time, you're like, was this death really necessary? Could it have been treated? Which, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure how far along the cancer was. Maybe anybody who's read Martyr, feel free to correct me if maybe the cancer was untreatable at that point. But I don't necessarily gel with Cyrus's viewpoint that this woman's death, for whatever reason, just because she's an artist, just because she's making a statement with her death, doesn't make it any more impactful than his mother's or anyone else on that flight. And that's mainly what I had to say about the messages in this book. I don't really have anything definitive, like a definitive statement to say about martyrdom and the mental health of our youth and of our fictional characters. It's just something that I've noticed in my fiction recurring again and again and again. And if you have any thoughts on how these works and how the idea of martyrdom, how these works and how these different self-sacrificing characters have affected you while reading these different, works of fiction, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to get your input on that. And I just want to thank everybody for watching, and I'm about to get into spoilers. So if you don't want to, if you haven't read Martyr, I recommend clicking off now and coming back when you've read. I mean, you don't even have to come back, but I do recommend you read Martyr and go into it without spoilers. But yeah, so you find out that this artist is Cyrus's mother, that, there was a big switch up. At first, when it got introduced, I was like, I don't know, that seems a little far-fetched for how grounded this tale has been thus far. I found that by the end, it really, really worked for me. And then another thing I wanted to speak on, probably the biggest thing that will make or break it in this book, is the ending, this sort of psychedelic, weird ending. And I had to go online to kind of see what is happening with that ending. And a lot of people believe that Cyrus has died at the end of the book, and that is why there's this weird psychedelic fever dream thing going on with him and his lover at the end of the book, his longtime friend and lover. I read the readers who are fond of this opinion for the end of the book. I choose to be a bit more of an optimist, so I believe that he is just filled with so much endorphins that he's kind of going on a little fever dream within, just from his own body chemicals, that that may be some delulu on me, but I choose to believe it. There is a lot of evidence that he could be dead at the end of the book, and I don't think Kaveh Akbar will ever comment on which of those endings, or if a third possible ending is what actually is going on. And I think it's intentional. I think it was supposed to be to where you could see it going either way. I think that there may be more evidence of him being dead, but I prefer my Delulu optimistic ending. And yeah, I absolutely adored this book. It's not a perfect 5-star book. It is a 5-star for me. And I give it that 5 stars because it did a lot of stuff that I haven't seen done in a lot of other books, whether that be fantasy books, contemporary fiction. It just felt very outside the box for me. But I think that same outside the box factor will be off-putting to a lot of readers. So I don't know, if you're still around, let me know if you liked Martyr, and stay safe, guys. Peace.